Hi. Welcome to Lessons Learned number 22 from making disciples by being out there and trying to do it. Hey, I want to ask you a question. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have, I know. You listen to these other religions and you think, man, they got some crazy stories. How could anybody ever believe that story is actually true? Because that's a crazy story. But here's what I want to ask you. You ever thought of the story that we're trying to get people to believe? Let's just run through it really quick. So there was this great being that we call God who created everything out of absolutely nothing, which I can't really get that, just by speaking it into existence. And then because some guy ate some fruit many years ago, you, me, and everybody else is destined when we die to go to a place where we will experience unimaginable suffering forever and ever and ever and ever, or what we like to call eternity. But this great being that we call God, who created everything out of nothing, had a plan to fix that problem. And so this young lady who had never been with a man wound up being pregnant. And she gives birth to this baby. Now, this is really crazy. She gives birth to a baby who is completely God because some reason God decided he wanted to come down and confine himself to a body like ours. And he's also completely a person. So in this same little baby, you got completely God and completely a person. Confusing, I know. Don't understand it myself either. So this little baby who's completely God, completely man, grows up to be an adult who is still completely God, completely man, and he never does anything wrong. But people still hate him, and so they kill him. And they hang him on this dead tree that they've shaped into the form of a cross. And he dies, and a lot of people watch him die, and then they bury him, and he's been dead for 3 days. And then he comes back to life. Somebody that's been dead for 3 days comes back to life, hangs out with his friends for about 40 days. And then at the end of the 40 days, his friends watch him float up into the clouds. And he has promised them, this is the kicker, he's promised them that he's going to come back on a white horse and take all of his friends with him. And so what I'm asking you today is, would you like to come with me and join me as we fly up into the clouds with this being on a white horse? Gotta admit, that's kind of a crazy story, isn't it? So here's lesson learned number 22, and I want to read this to you. If you want to see anything happen in making disciples, then you must pray, and you must pray, and you must pray, and you must pray. Because without the Holy Spirit being involved, I'm not going to get anybody to believe this crazy story. If the Holy Spirit's not part of what we're doing, there is no way you or I or anybody else is going to come up with a good enough argument to convince people that they should believe this crazy story. But here comes the struggle for us, isn't it? As a Christian, we have to say prayer is important. We have to say prayer is a priority. You couldn't be a Christian without saying that, right? If I were to ask you as a Christian to pray for me, you have to say you will. Whether you will or not, you have to say it because you're a Christian, because that's what we've been conditioned to do. Now, whether you actually pray or whether I actually pray, that's a different question. But you have to say that as a Christian. Prayer is a priority. But if I'm honest, you know what I've learned? I say prayer is a priority, but I think my doing is much more effective and much more productive at making disciples than me praying about it. Because if you look at the way I spend my time, I'm more interested in my doing than I am in my praying about something. And I'm just trying to be honest here. So how can we make prayer a priority and keep prayer a priority? I definitely do not have this figured out, but I just wanted to share a couple of things with you that have helped me a lot. The first one is, if you track it, it's going to get done. If you track it, it's much more likely to get done. So I have what I call my daily activity tracking log. Fancy name. All it means is I have on a spreadsheet the things that I think are important that I should be doing, and I track those every day. And so either at the end of the day or the next morning, I will go through and look, and I either check that I did that thing today or I leave it blank that I didn't. And the first thing on my list is reading the Bible and praying. And so either at night or first thing in the morning, I have to go through and I have to hold myself accountable and be honest and say either I did it yesterday or today or I didn't. And so if I did it, I check it. And if I didn't do it, I don't check it. And I have this laid out for a week at a time so I can easily see how important I'm making prayer in my life. The second thing, which I think is really exciting, is not just to pray, but EO stands for to pray extraordinary. Extraordinarily. Okay, but I like to call it extraordinary prayer. So this is the way it works. So however you're praying now, whether you're praying a lot, whether you're praying some, whether you're praying a little, or just be honest, hey, I don't pray at all. That's your ordinary prayer right now. That's okay. That's your ordinary prayer. And so what I'm suggesting is make your ordinary prayer extraordinary. And how do you do that? We'll simply come up with one or two things that you could add to your existing prayer life and then start doing those. And you've taken what was your ordinary prayer life and you've made it extraordinary for you. Don't compare your prayer life to somebody else. Just take wherever you are and make your prayer life extraordinary for you by adding one or two things. And once those one or two things that you've added have become habit and routine, now that becomes your new ordinary prayer life. And so what do you do then? You add something else to it. And so you take your new ordinary prayer and you make it extraordinary by adding something else to it. So if you want to see anything happen in making disciples, what do? You need to pray extraordinarily. You need to pray extraordinarily. You need to go out and share this crazy story that we just talked about with a lot of people. You need to pray extraordinarily and you need to pray extraordinary. Okay? And so when things are going difficult and things aren't going the way you wanted, what do? You pray extraordinarily, you share this crazy story with people, you pray extraordinarily, and you pray extraordinarily. When things are going great and you think you got it all worked out and everything's clicking, you know what you do? You pray extraordinarily, you pray extraordinary, you share this crazy story with a lot of people, you pray extraordinary, and you pray extraordinary. And I can promise you, if you want to increase your commitment to prayer, I think I can promise you this from experience. I don't think I'm making an over-the-top claim. If you want to increase your commitment to prayer and you want to increase your belief that prayer works, you go out on a regular basis and engage with lost people and share this crazy story with them. And I guarantee it will humble you, which will drive you to praying, and then you want to be praying extraordinary, sharing the crazy story some more, praying extraordinary. I hope that's helped you some. I've got some Bible passages at the bottom here because I want you to check me out and make sure I'm not misleading you in any way. I also have my email down there. If I can help you in any way, shoot me an email. And so now let's go out and make disciple-making disciples until all here.